Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello. Who's that Pittsburgh blogger?
I just asked you to let it lie.
Never mind. Excuse us. Good morning. I was remiss, apparently. I don't know. What?
I know.
Hello. And I must reintroduce myself to you. I feel like I haven't been here.
Yeah,
in ages.
you haven't.
I took 2 days just because
2 days is an eternity in today's new media frontier.
I'll tell you. Let me let you walk in the shoes of a Jew for just a little bit, okay? Because,
great. Here we go. Okay.
No, I've been so confused because the calendar that this country operates on is a Christian calendar, is it not?
It is. Yes.
Consequently, when a very important Jewish holiday, my favorite, Passover, occurs, I need to be with my family to celebrate that, okay?
Okay.
And so I have to schlep all the way somewhere because and I have to, because the holidays start in an evening. I ended up not being able to do the show either on, if I had family here, I would have not missed any.
Yes, right.
That's right. But I kept thinking it was the weekend the whole time because, when you're off.
Sure. It always, yeah, right.
So I am so confused. Today is Monday to me. I'm all mixed up. And I find out that Friday I can't have a show either because of you Christians.
Oh. Well, you can come in. I'll be here.
Will you? But you don't know how to run the board.
Well, I was just taking the day off. That's not because she's a Christian. That's because she's lazy.
It's the only
All right, yeah, no.
Are you gonna be at church on Friday, Jess?
Hell no.
I rest my case.
Okay, but I can't do a show because Carlo is the other guy who could do it. He's off.
Yeah.
And
also probably not going.
And
to
then
church.
the chief engineer, who was the other one who could step in, he off.
Yeah.
So I off on Friday. I wanted to do a show. So it's just this show and tomorrow, and I feel I want to apologize.
I feel like you've got a civil rights thing happening for you.
You think?
No. It just seems to be where everything's headed these days. So. Yeah.
Okay, I suspect we'll get into some of that. So anyway, I drove to Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Did you?
And I took an audiobook with me.
No.
And I'm in the middle of it.
What was the book?
Now I've got to find excuses to drive long distances because, or just sit in the car.
Do you not have a
garage.
tape player in your house?
I don't want to do it in the house for some reason. I love doing it when I'm. Anyway.
What's the book?
It's a Bill Bryson book.
Oh yeah, which one? I've read some of it.
I think it's called At Home.
No, that one I haven't read.
Okay, well. This is where you just, you look at how did houses become houses? When did people, you realize you've learned such freaky things that the very idea of a room, dividing a house into rooms is pretty damn new.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Jeez. Yeah, no, it's just amazing. But on the way, I had to drive downtown today. On the way down, he said, in the late 1800s, there was, just this rush of invention going on. And he mentioned 3 things that had been invented that he said were so perfect upon their initial invention that they have essentially not been, people messed around with them.
Yeah.
But
was Cheetos one of them?
No.
Okay, what were they?
The safety pin,
Uh-huh.
the paper clip,
Uh-huh.
and the mousetrap. And that mousetrap, that's why there's that
Saying
phrase,
about if you
build
build
a
a-
better mousetrap, because you can't. The first mousetrap, that lethal mousetrap, snap. That was, I forget who he said did it, but did it.
See, I don't necessarily agree with that. We have one of those, humane traps. So it catches the mouse alive. It freaks my wife out, but it freaks my wife out less than I think a dead mouse would.
A decapitated.
So I take the mouse
where
out
do you
for a
bring-
walk. I take them. I
Yeah,
take
where
them
do you
to a
put 'em?
park. I walk to a park with the mouse, and then I give him some advice about how to make his way in the world, and then I set him loose in the park. Whereupon he is set upon by birds of prey.
Well, I was, as I told you, just at my brother's place, and his home is a veritable zoo, menagerie, because he has given rise to, first of all, he married an animal lover.
Oh.
And then he's...
I was going to say, oh my God, Scalia was right! We should have listened!
He's an animal lover, and their children are all insanely animal lovers. I'm an animal lover, but my God!
Yeah.
So the son rescues a cat who is half dead, brings it home from college. The cat doesn't get along with this cat and that cat. And so these cats have separate rooms. There's one cat living in my brother's bedroom, and the son who brought the cat home showed up for the Seder.
With another animal?
Uh-huh.
Which was?
A mouse.
Oh, really?
My suggestion was, put the mouse where the cat you brought last is. That'll take care of everything. No, the mouse is ensconced on top of the guinea pig.
there you go.
And isn't that? Everybody's being fed and cared for. And I found this huge bag in their kitchen of squirrel food.
You mean food for squirrels or food made from squirrels?
Food for squirrels!
Oh, really?
Would it ever occur to you to feed the squirrels in your backyard?
It would.
Oh my God, it would!
I mean, I'm not saying that I would do it, but it has occurred to me because I once spent some time at actually the Harvard campus, in Cambridge, where all the squirrels are highly, highly tamed. Squirrels will crawl up onto your lap, essentially, to be fed by hand because the geniuses, students at Harvard,
have been feeding
squirrels.
them. Well, you see, you make them dependent then when they are not intended to be dependent.
That's
And then
right.
let's say you move away. They starve. They don't even know how to. And my sister-in-law noticed that the squirrels looked like they had mange.
We've actually been studying this lesson at our house. We've been reading the "If You Give a Mouse a Cookie" series of books.
Okay, if you give
all of which I believe, I haven't checked this out, but I believe the author of these books is actually some secret conservative, and they're all attempts to inculcate your children against supporting the welfare state.
About welfare.
Because the idea is if you give a mouse a cookie, the mouse is just going to want something
more and
else.
more and more and
And it's
more.
this whole lesson of unintended consequences.
That's right. If you give a mouse a cookie.
So, and there's a whole
Right.
series of these. If you
Yeah.
give a pig a pancake, for example, but they all tend
That's
to
right.
lead
That's
to,
right. You got
yeah.
they want everything.
Yeah.
And they want it for nothing.
So there needs to
she
be
did,
communist.
yeah.
There needs to be commie children's books out there, I think.
But so listen to this.
Okay, sorry.
There are animal lover nuts more than my sister-in-law.
Sure.
Because when she mentioned to one of them that she thought the squirrels in her backyard looked particularly mangy this winter, the woman said, "I have for you
Food to improve their-
medicalized." They take walnuts and put some kind of medicine on them, then wrap each individual walnut was wrapped in a plastic wrap and then wrapped in tin foil. And she had a number of these, and she was told, try to feed the squirrels, 2 doses. Well, how do you feed a squirrel? She puts it out in
Yeah.
hopes of.
Yeah.
Guess what? Their coats look beautiful now. She
Presumably,
cleared
she
them up.
unwraps the walnuts.
She
first, right?
unwraps
They're
the
just not
walnuts,
supposed to
but
be eating them.
chances are the squirrels could do it too.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. That's
I mean, they're very
crafty.
dexterous,
Yes, they are.
right?
Yeah, I like squirrels.
Well, anyway, I just find. What are we talking about?
I don't know. I thought, we had like this whole Supreme Court thing yesterday. We've had indictments since we last talked, but you're taking us down this thing about squirrel coats and stuff.
Well, it's because of that damn mousetrap that I heard in the car.
You shouldn't listen to stuff before you start this show.
You don't think the paperclip and the safety pin are pretty extraordinary things?
I've never really been satisfied with paper clips, I will say.
You're kidding.
No, paper clips have always irritated me. They never really fasten the way I want things to be fastened.
Oh, I don't disagree. They're amazing, and they can be and used to break and enter.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So if it can be used in the commission of a felony.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. If that's the standard, then I retract my
They're very utilitarian. Okay. All right. So you want to talk about the Supreme Court?
I didn't say I wanted. I'm just surprised by the direction this show has taken.
As I said, I've sort of been. Oh, I have one more thing to talk about.
Okay.
Did you see this?
I can't tell. What is it?
Okay, this is something. Have you ever heard about the Lehigh Valley IronPigs?
Is that like a sports team?
Yes, it is.
I have not.
The Lehigh Valley IronPigs.
Yeah.
You gotta like that.
Yeah.
And it never is clear here, but I'm assuming it's a baseball team.
Okay.
And they actually play in the Allentown ballpark.
Yeah.
They're a minor league team. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they are going. Who knew? That Allentown Stadium is going to have something that our big stadiums here don't have. The Yankees don't have. Nobody in this country is going to have what the Allentown IronPig fans will be able to enjoy.
Reasonably priced beer?
No.
Okay. What?
They will. This is only for men. I think there's a. When men go into the bathroom. As they approach the urinals, a video screen over the urinals will be activated and will tell them that they can now start playing the game. And the game is like an Angry Birds kind of a game. I mean, where you knock off, and of course you do this
with your stream, as it were.
With your stream, as it were. Shut up! Hey.
No, I think I did see. I think I did see something about this.
As a patron approaches the urinal, sensors detect his presence. A quick video or message appears on the screen, but as the individual steps up to the urinal, the video screen lights up and it says "Bladders up."
Well, so what do you get if you win? Like, is there a thing?
No, you do.
Okay.
It's amazing. Sensors track the individual's. Okay, wait. Points are earned for, like knocking off. There's like one penguin skiing down a hill, and you knock off penguins with your pee, right?
Sure.
Pew, 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 pew. Okay.
Uh-huh. Why is this being done?
Well, here's what's interesting. You will not believe. Only in America. Well, that's not true because these things are already in Europe.
Yeah.
A group called Captive Media is behind it because they say as long as you got somebody standing there.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so there's got to be an advertising component. Yeah. Okay, so you got them now, and after the individuals get done, by the way, and wash their hands, they then enter a code on their smartphone and report their scores. And the high scorers will be announced in the stadium. You get bragging rights in the stadium. Don't you think that's cool?
Is there a way to opt out of this thing?
Quick video messages come on, some strategically placed around the bathroom, giving advertisers opportunities to guess who's signed on. Guess who's going to be in Allentown part of this.
Range Resources.
The urology department of Lehigh Valley Hospital. They saw it as a great way to talk to men about their health.
Yeah.
Prostate trouble.
Sure.
Whatever.
I'm totally against this.
You are?
Yeah.
And you want to express your reasons why?
Because I'm totally against just the commercialization of public space, and I just think
and the commercialization of your very private.
Yeah, why can't? Isn't there more? I mean, there's already like all kinds of. You go to a bar or whatever, and they'll have an ad above the, just like a print ad or something above the thing. And I mean, that doesn't bother me terribly much, but it just reminds me of like a short story by George Saunders where you're just like everything you do, you have to watch a certain number of ads in the course of a day, or the cops come and beat you up or something. I'm just completely against it. I mean, it's funny. I like the team name, by the way, too.
IronPigs. Is that great or what?
You know what that's from? Is in olden times, the blast furnaces. You may have heard of pig iron.
Right.
And the reason for that is that in the old days, at least, when blast furnaces would run out the iron at the end of the iron making process, they would run into these molds that looked a little bit like pigs. So that's why they called it pig iron. So there you go. And of course, that area has also had its own steel industry, just like ours did. So that's a really good name.
Diane says the prizes should be for
more beer.
Get more beer, or a drop dead stream, or you can get a free prostate exam.
More beer, and then you can go back and see more ads. It's actually brilliant.
Know how long the video runs, by the way. There's an assumption that you don't want it to cut out before you're done. 55 seconds. Which seems very long. Right. But they said these guys usually are drinking a lot of beer.
Yeah. And then maybe after your fourth or fifth trip, they start doing like Alcoholics Anonymous ads. It's really, by the time they're in like the 8th inning,
Oh, God. Okay. Now we'll get serious.
Well, I was looking forward to it before, but now you've just kind of...
Well, I know you don't like Maureen Dowd, but she's already screaming and yelling at the what she perceived of the justices where their heads were on this issue from the questions that they, in fact, asked.
Yeah.
And her piece's headline, "Courting Cowardice." She thinks they're gonna. They don't have the balls to essentially declare. I guess this is what this case does, is ask them to do something that's about as heavy a thing as a court can do, which is define an absolute right and make it larger than it's ever been.
Yes, right.
And
that's
she
tough.
senses that they're queasy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you listened to the.
I didn't listen to the audio.
I did listen to the audio and read the transcript, and there are a couple of things that make me think that's correct. One is that so many of their questions were about standing, which is the right of somebody to bring a lawsuit in the first place, and that is sort of a thorny issue. You and I have talked about this before. Part of the problem in California is neither the governor nor the state attorney general, who are usually the people who defend the legitimacy of the state's laws, neither of them wanted to do it in this case. And so what basically happened is you got 5 citizens who were in favor of not letting gay people marry and who put this ballot initiative on the ballot, and they just sort of represented it. So you can understand there's sort of a legitimate question of, well, who the hell are you guys? You know what I mean? To sort of defend the state's law or whatever. So there are some legitimate and weird concerns, and those will come up again today, because today the court's hearing about the Defense of Marriage Act, which is a federal thing, and again the U.S. Attorney General decided he didn't want to defend it.
So the very people who are supposed to defend these things will not.
Right. And so who does? And then do the people who are before you?
In today's case, it's Congress.
It's a group in Congress, and I think they call themselves the Bipartisan Legislative something group, but it's really just Republicans. It's House Republicans essentially bringing this forward. So there could be the other thing too is that towards the end of the hearing yesterday, when the people in favor of gay marriage in California were brought up, they were asked, I think by Sotomayor, who's one of the more friendly, could we rule on this in a way that would only affect California? And
that's
so
what they want to do.
Yeah, I think in that case that really is where it's at, and I think what you're seeing is and another writer, David Sirota, who's very good on Salon.com, was talking about this too. Is they don't want to like wade into gay marriage in Alabama. bigotry, his argument was, is sort of too big to overturn in this country. They're worried about the external, a court, the whole idea of an independent judiciary is they're not supposed to take into account political considerations.
But
the
that's
law is the law.
But that is,
this is the concern, is that so many of their questions, are we ready?
It was seeming to me that's not what they're there to do.
Yeah, and I mean,
I was really
to his credit, Scalia is the only one who really seemed willing to just, that guy doesn't give a damn about anything, so he's willing to go in and be the happy warrior for his cause, even though I think it's a despicable
cause. I mean, he's despicable in general. He's always making jokes. He thinks he's so...
Yeah, he had a thing yesterday about Strom Thurmond's sperm motility. I mean, this is like probably the only time a senator's virility has become a subject for the...
Just unbelievable. They were talking about, when you're fertile and that men are fertile, can be for... Look at Strom.
Right.
Yeah, fathering children by black women who he does,
But this is, but that is, if you think about it, that is the remarkable thing about the defense. I mean, I think the case for banning gay marriage, whether they reach the merits or not, the merits of that case were just, I think, revealed to be utterly bankrupt. I mean, you've got this guy saying, their cases, it's all about procreation. That marriage is about having kids. And so the justices very naturally and very logically ask, well, lots of couples either A, don't have kids, or B, can't have them because they're too old, which is how Strom Thurmond got dragged into it. And their case is, well, the benefits don't really accrue to the couple itself alone. It's just this sort of general cultural thing that, the justices were like, well, how does that work? What's that? This is Kagan. How does that work? What's the cause and effect? And he really couldn't say. It was just sort of this vague thing of, we don't know what will happen. There will be consequences, and sometimes consequences are bad. That is literally the argument.
But I was astounded by listening to some of the back and forth that I did hear, because it sounds like they're not talking about law.
Yeah.
What are they talking? I thought, you guys, hey, and what's his name, Scalia or somebody said at one point, well, we don't have enough science about whether or not the children of these, gay unions are right. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Now you're an expert on on psychological and sociological studies on the effect of having gay parents. He doesn't know that.
And in fact,
all the studies I have seen and the most recent say those kids do every bit as well, in some cases even better. And good God, this is what a justice is supposed to do? Like, he thinks he's so wise, he knows everything?
Right.
Well, he doesn't.
Right. In fact, I mean, it's
like an old man sitting around muttering stuff. It's bull. It's just bull.
Yeah, and although I gave him credit a minute ago, I'll take it back, because, I mean, Scalia is actually, I think, the best example of how ridiculously activist these judicial conservatives are supposed to be. If you go back to a case that's been bothering me for weeks, the Voting Rights Act, which the Supreme Court heard a little while ago. And Scalia gets up there, and he made an argument that I just found was astounding. And he said, if you look at how, because the Voting Rights Act has to be renewed every few years, and he says, if you look at this vote, the vote has become, over time, it's trended more and more to be unanimous. And somehow, in Scalia's book, that means that they don't really want to vote for it. The more votes cast for it shows the weakness of the support for it, because his argument was, well, they just all feel kind of extorted because that there's this racial quote unquote entitlement in place. So here you've got a guy who's interpreting, who's reading into the intentions of every congressman who votes for it. So as the Congress, as the documented fact, which is the number of votes in favor of renewing it, increases every time, he's somehow come up with this interpretation that means that there's less and less justification for supporting it. He is and this is exactly what he says he should never do, what he says justices should never do, which is substitute their judgment for the political judgment of the other branch.
He not hear himself doing this?
Because he doesn't care. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I think actually there may be some truth to what he's saying, that it's just become a thing, it's a no-brainer to vote for, But once you can do that to the Congress seated right now, once you start to substitute your judgments for what today's Congress is doing, how do you say that you're not doing the same thing when you go back to the original Congresses?
Exactly.
When you're supposed to be the originalist whose only job is to interpret what those guys said, did, and voted on. It just shows the utter bankruptcy of that whole school of judicial thought. So it's remarkable. And sadly, and I think this is what, I haven't read Maureen's column, but I suspect it's what she's saying, and it sounds like what you're saying too, is we don't have this sort of concomitant sort of zeal on the other side. It's this, these are the real restraint. These are the people, Sotomayor and Kagan, these are the folks who are actually arguing as much as they possibly can for judicial restraint, is the people on our side of this issue. It's remarkable.
I'll read you just two little things that she says. So she's listening to it all, and she said, there's Justice Kennedy grumbling about uncharted waters, and the fuddy-duddies, she said, seem to be looking for excuses not to make a sweeping ruling. Their questions reflected a unanimous craven impulse. How do we get out of this?
Yeah.
This court is plenty bold, she said, imposing bad decisions on the country.
Right.
Like anointing W president or allowing unlimited money to flow covertly into campaigns.
Right.
But given a chance to make a bold decision putting them on the right and even now popular side of history, they get queasy.
Right.
They squirm.
I will say, in fairness to Kagan and Sotomayor, there was concern even amongst some LGBT legal folks. These are people who be for gay marriage rights. There was some concern. They were kind of worried that the court picked up the Proposition 8 case because they themselves had legal concerns about sort of the political and legal ramifications. So when some of the very proponents of this thing also kind of have some misgivings, I mean, I do think that ought to be noted and put into the context. But yeah, I mean, again, judges aren't supposed to think about that stuff. They're supposed to rule on the merits.
Okay, but here's an emotional thing that is, to me, at the heart of it, but I don't know, does the law have anything to do with this? They say Justice Kennedy brought up the possible legal injury to 40,000 children in California who live with same-sex parents. And the justice said they want their parents to have full recognition and full status. The voice of those children is important in this case, don't you think?
Right.
Now, is that really the voice of those children? Is that that is something that a justice would?
Yeah, because the question...
Okay.
The question becomes because
their
even what the
right to freedom
and does expanding the definition of marriage serve a legitimate state interest? That was the question actually put forward by these other people. And so you can say if it does somehow materially, if this current state of affairs damages these kids, then it could legitimately advance a state interest to expand the definition to prevent that harm.
Well, it seems to me Olson was brilliant, and he just looked at all the rights that we just assume, and they all play here. The right of us, to associate with who you want. The right that these are all these private rights. The right of the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
All this, and he just was sort of ticking off all these.
Which
things.
The founders were for. We should point out for the sake of Justice Scalia.
We take as a given.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Conversely, the U.S. Solicitor General, who often gets called in to act as sort of as a friend of the court and give his own argument, although the Obama administration isn't a party to this case, he comes in. I thought he did a fairly dismal job.
This is the guy whose name begins with a V.
Yeah, Verrilli is his name.
Why everybody always thinks he does a R?
Yeah, I think I think in this case he was somewhat hamstrung by his position. Actually, to me, one of the most interesting things was Stephen Breyer, who I think actually would, with a stroke of the pen, be willing to extend gay marriage just based on his questions. One of the things he said Verrilli was also making these very cautious distinctions about not necessarily wanting the thing to expand it. And Breyer was very pointed on this. What you're doing now is you're saying only the states that have gone part of the way towards giving gay couples rights, they're the only ones who have to go all the way. And meanwhile, there are these other states that are doing nothing. Actively discriminating, including Pennsylvania, and they don't have to do anything at all under your argument. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out how I would write a ruling by that. And the government, the federal government, the Attorney General and the Solicitor's Office aren't giving me anything to work with. And I mean, to me was just kind of like, and that shows, I think, it's this age-old argument with the Obama administration. It's always kind of, 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Well, here's here's a great sign that was held up by a woman outside the court. Gays have the right to be as miserable as I make my husband.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've heard that argument too. There was another sign too, which we were passing around in the office, which was my gay agenda. And it was like a little course of a day. So, 7 o'clock, wake up, da-da-da-da, take the kids to school, cook, feed the dog, da-da-da-da. And then from 7:45 to 8 o'clock was undermine an opposite sex marriage. And the best part was that only took 15 minutes to do. Whereas I think walking the dog took half an hour or something like that. It was very good.
Oh, God. Well, we are not on our 2020 today.
Oh, well, that's all right.
We screwed up.
We talked about squirrel coats, so you gotta allow for the breaking news to.
Do you know what causes mange in a squirrel, by the way?
I honestly can say I do not.
Okay, it is a tick bite, I believe.
Is that so?
I believe so. That's what
Is that different from what causes mange and everything else? Is it always ticks, or?
I have no idea.
Well, all right. Perhaps we'll find out during the break.
Can people get mange?
Yeah, I think so.
You lose your hair? Is that what happens?
Dun, 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 dun.
All right.
I don't know.
Jess, look up mange, M-A-N-G.
Thanks.
I'll go.
Please,
All right. Wait. We're going to a break. I am really sorry. I'm just
Email your
off.
questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
This week's Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for an in-depth look at city politics, plus Aziz Ansari, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and the Shadow Lounge. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a pep talk that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You can improve your future. Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and for free classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education, brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
We're debating the big questions here, folks. Whether a mite is the same thing as a tick.
All right, so mange is spread by mites.
And in humans, apparently, it is
Transmittable.
scabies.
Scabies.
So I did not realize those were the same thing.
Well, you
learn...
you bring something up and you learn stuff. Did you know Thomas Edison tried, spent a fortune trying to make us all live in prefab concrete houses where even the furniture was made of concrete, where everything in it was poured concrete. You could put one up in a day. He thought this was, concrete.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want, oh yes, here we have a little concrete
No
table.
cushion on it? Even for your bed?
I don't know. He was a jerk.
So many of the brilliant men are.
Yes, well, he was. Oh, and Watson, as in, come here, Mr. Watson,
yes.
With Alexander Graham Bell.
Yeah.
Bell. Well, boy, he had a fascinating career after all that.
Did he?
None of which I can remember. But
cool story, thanks.
I'm sorry. He was all over the place. And he became a commie for a while, and then he went off to England, and turned out he was a great Shakespearean actor. Who knew? I'm telling you, very talented guy. And he's the one who came up with the ring, because how would you know? Bell kept thinking, well, you'll just pick up this thing every once in a while to see if anybody's there.
Alexander Graham Bell lived a lonely, lonely life.
Hello? But all those things you take for granted really puzzled them. How do we know if, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to remember whether it was him or whether it was the guy who invented the telegraph. It was something to do with that it came out of this horrible thing that happened in their life, like their fiance or something was really ill or had died, and they had been waiting for news, but the letter didn't reach him until months afterwards, and so it became the driving passion of their life to improve communication. I wish I could remember that story better. This is great. This is just sort of these half remembered. And then it has something to do with cheese. I don't know.
I know. I can't. I know. That's the thing when you're listening to these books. That's
the problem.
Every sentence is some fact that you didn't know, and you're thinking, oh my God, that's interesting. But if you ask me now, what facts do I remember of the million facts that have poured into my head now?
That's why you should just listen to like bad fiction. That just just the literary equivalent of Law and Order reruns or something.
That's probably true.
But I learned something about mange today, so you folks cannot say this was a wasted hour.
So, that stabbing at the Target.
Yeah.
That's freaky.
It is.
There were a lot of good Samaritans there.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Samaritans with baseball bats.
I love them.
The best kind.
Samaritan with a baseball bat, that's what you want. Yeah. And we both had the same reaction. Thank God that guy didn't have a gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think of what he could have done with a gun. Just mowed down all the folks and all that. Yep.
And this way, as Wayne LaPierre, famously was the only thing that stops a bad man with a gun is a good man with a gun. But obviously, when the bad man has a knife, you have more options. Yeah. As we saw from the conduct of those brave customers. So I hope everybody. The last I heard, nobody's injury was life-threatening. It sounded like the young woman was very
the most. She had a collapsed lung, but she'll be fine. Thank God. Yeah, welcome to Pittsburgh. She just come in from Chattanooga.
This sort of thing could happen anywhere. Of course,
could happen anywhere.
Yeah.
So, Joe writes, Scalia and all the other justices are justifying child abuse and neglect by straight couples toward their offspring as legitimate. Well, you think?
It's just overstating it a little bit, although I see what
I see the point, too, when everybody keeps mouthing that, the traditional, it's best for the child to have a mother and a father. Okay, Jeffrey Dahmer had a mother and a father. Charles Manson had a mother and father. Most of the people in, prison, they had a mother and a father. Those heterosexual parents.
I'm sorry, where do you think the other people in prison came from? All those test tube babies gone wrong.
But this idea that having two parents is like the be-all and end-all.
Right.
And that if you have a single parent or if you have two parents of the same gender, that you are so... And it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
It's so absurd.
Yeah.
Okay. I say that as a single parent. Yeah. Listen, here's what gay parents are going to do. They're going to screw up their kids every bit as much as heterosexual parents. They will be as conscientious and as screwed up.
Yep.
And they will be absolutely just like, if you haven't figured that out by now, you're hopeless.
Yeah. I would say Joe goes on to say that he has no hope for the federal legalization of gay unions within his lifetime, and he says he's 54. But
no. I think
it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen.
I'm older than you. Yeah. My lifetime, it's definitely going to happen. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
No, you'll see it. What are you expecting to live just a year or two? No.
Yeah, no, I
think it'll happen very quickly.
And in fact, today, we were saying this during the break, but today there's another case related to this, which is DOMA, which is the federal law that basically said even if a state were to make same-sex marriage legal, that the federal law would not recognize it. So it is. I actually think that's been perceived as the more narrow case because it doesn't really put out a right to marriage. It just sort of would be about getting rid of a ban on it if states recognize it.
But it would mean, right, that if obviously for the married people, gay people in states that have allowed them to marry, then the federal government is going to have to recognize those marriages and treat those people as they would treat any other married couple.
When it comes to things like tax benefits,
because
whether
you're pointing out the case in point is to a woman who, upon the death of her partner,
they were legally married in Canada, I believe.
And she had to, the estate laws did not recognize, federal tax law did not recognize that as a marriage.
She had to pay the death tax. Which conservatives
over $300,000 went to the government, where if she had been married to a man, that money would not have. So that obviously sets up gay people to be treated differently.
Yes.
How How is it not? It's just a slam dunk. I don't even see how you possibly.
I could very easily see the same justices. Who knows whether this will happen? I could very easily see some of the same justices who are expressing doubts about this thing ruling in favor of overturning DOMA because it preserves states' rights to be as bigoted as they want to be.
But so I wonder how much there will be. So then people will choose. I mean, I really would think that if I were gay and I would take up residence, and if I wanted to marry, I would definitely take up residence in a state that treated me as a whole citizen of the country.
Yes.
And the economic impact on bigoted states could be very, very palpable.
Yeah. Good.
And should be.
I hope it is.
Should be.
Yeah.
Okay, you're a gay person. You're offered a job in New York or in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh job is a lot more what you're looking for, and it even pays well, and the cost of living is better, and it just looks wonderful. But you're married and want to be married, and you go to New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why would you want to live somewhere where they treat you like?
There should be. I'm of totally the opinion there should be economic consequences to that kind of thing. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Of course, what's more likely? I mean, what's more likely is, for example, what one of our coworkers here, a staff writer, did, which is went to New York. Got married in a duly constituted legal ceremony under the laws of New York, and
she came back here. Where her job is. But so if DOMA is unconstitutional, then she's still protected with federal.
She would be. Now, the state, Pennsylvania, would still have its own ban, and then I don't know exactly I don't actually know what the state thing would be there.
Well, the state simply doesn't recognize her union.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I don't know what benefits the state confers one way or the other. I guess I'd have to think about that. But certainly the federal is the big one. The federal is the big one because it's income tax every year and withholding is different and all that stuff. So,
God. Did we take a second break?
We have not, because we just took one 10 minutes ago.
Because we were running late. Okay. Well, here, before we take a second break,
yes,
I would like you to opine for a second on something that happened since we last spoke. Actually, two things that happened. The indictment of former Chief Harper.
Yep.
And his decision not to fight the charges.
Yes.
And Luke Ravenstahl's suing of UPMC.
Right. You want to do both of those things?
In 30 seconds. Tweet it.
No, actually, well, we have stories about both of these things in this week's issue of the paper, out on stands today.
Yes.
One of the things we were struck by, I'll tackle Harper first. I mean, one of the things we were struck by is, here's a case of a cop, and I couldn't, I was not at the press conference. I was following my staff writers as they were there, and the first few tweets they were sending, they were sort of live tweeting this. I thought I must be misreading it, because here was a case where a police officer in the city of Pittsburgh, when accused of wrongdoing, just cowboyed up and said, you know what, I am mortified by these accusations.
Right.
I stand before you embarrassed. Our client will be pleading guilty.
Amazing.
It is amazing, and it is as flawed as Nate Harper appears to be, and we may yet hear worse. Investigations are continuing. I will say this for him: this is a guy who is standing up and taking responsibility, at least for himself. And I think some of the shame here is that he has not been able, for a variety of reasons, to levy that kind of accountability on the rank and file officers in his force who needed it.
Correct.
Because what we have seen, even the same week, he was in the courthouse twice last week, and the other was for Bradley Walker, detective who engaged in a road rage incident. And the city was basically found not culpable because although he was waving around his city-issued firearm and so on and so forth during this incident, he was not acting under color of...
He was not on the clock.
And what I find ironic about that decision is, you may remember there was a situation where a cop over in the South Side accidentally shot somebody and was essentially, the criminal charge against him was tossed out of court because in that case the judge said, well, officers are really never off duty because he could have been out there trying to chase down a wrongdoer, and it's not the place of this court to judge the behavior of police to police. Yeah, which I just found a remarkable statement. Wow. So that's one thing. So the what was the other? Oh, of course, Ravenstahl and the UPMC.
Let's take a break. We'll come back for that because that's a biggie.
Yeah, that's a biggie.
That's a biggie. Sue
Stick around
those.
for more with Lynn Cullen live after this.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, and shows. This week only, get discounts up to 40% for the Steelhead Brasserie and Wine Bar. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. bergbargains.com.
Packers.
Vikings.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But when we live united, we make a real difference in the building blocks of life. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly so do our communities. Real change won't happen without you.
Live United.
So give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen live.
You guys are such, oh man. God.
Anywho, moving on to safer ground.
I'm appalling these two, apparently.
Not me.
Oh, yeah.
It really is funny.
I register
never
myself
mind.
as appalled. Anyway, go ahead.
You're
Yes.
appalled. You're easily appalled. Okay. So, it seems wonderful that since Luke doesn't have to think about re-election, he can, he's been doing slash burn. He's yeah.
He was going to do this anyway.
You think?
Yes. This is, people have this perception, and I'm glad you brought it up. People have this perception that the reason Luke Ravenstahl went off and filed this lawsuit challenging UPMC's tax-exempt status is because he didn't have to be afraid of anything because now he's not ready for election. I can tell you, I have spoken to people who were involved in the research, the legal research for this thing months ago. Yeah. This was going to happen regardless of whether.
Okay, that's cool.
So now I don't know whether the other thing too is look, as a political calculation, if he still were running for office, it's a very popular thing to do. He needs votes. He doesn't need UPMC's money anymore.
Right.
So so he was definitely going to do it.
Okay, now everybody's suggesting that this is. Perhaps rather quixotic, that the way the law reads, the law is meant to pretty much protect these so-called nonprofits. And but as I read the bars that supposedly a nonprofit has to
clear.
Thank you.
You're
couldn't think of that VoIP. Has to clear in order to not have to pay their tax. I don't see how UPMC can suggest that they are doing so. That they don't operate without what?
Without a profit motive.
Profit motive. Right. Absolutely right. And that's why, it's a joke. Yeah. It's a joke to say that.
Well, it's, I don't know. These things are always more complicated than people want them to be. So there are 5, this is called the HUPS standard, and that's a reference to a court case a few decades ago. And it's a 5-part test. There are five of these things that an institution of purely public charity has to meet. The legal team that the mayor hired, which is a very prestigious firm, says that their challenge is on 3 of those. And on one of those in particular, it's very strong. They feel their case is very strong, and it is that profit motive. And what I wrote about this, a column about this, and to me, a lot of people, what people seized on, I was sort of tweeting from the event myself, and the tweet that I sent that people really seized on was, in this lawsuit, it is alleged that Jeffrey Romoff, the head of UPMC, has his own chauffeur, his own cook, and his own private jet sort of available at his disposal.
But of course.
Right. And so people seized on that. That has stuff like that. They put it in a lawsuit to, to utz them a little bit. That really isn't gonna matter. I think to me, what the most interesting thing that came out of that, out of the press conference itself, was somebody who didn't get quoted at all, and she was a young woman. Kendra Bowser is her name, and she carries a kind of insurance called Community Blue, which is issued by Highmark. And Community Blue had gotten written about in a story that really blew my mind in the Post Gazette earlier this month. Community Blue is issued by Highmark. Most of the people who have it work for West Penn Allegheny General. And what UPMC in its infinite wisdom has decided to do is not only to not take that insurance, which is its right, and I don't think anybody's surprised by it, but to not even, to tell them essentially that your money is no good here. So if you came here and laid down $300 to pay for your thing, they don't want to see
still won't do it.
And that to me...
We won't treat you. That is an outrage.
That to me is just absolutely remarkable, because if healthcare in this country is not about taking as much money from people as you can, I don't know what's happened to the field of medicine here. I mean, it's completely bizarre to me, and it really does suggest. UPMC's argument, this is the thing that kills me. UPMC's argument is, yes, we're a nonprofit, but we do have to make excess money. We do have to make money over our costs. Otherwise, we'll have, fine. Here's somebody who was willing to give you money to accomplish that mission. And you were, A, neither charitable enough to let this woman continue to see her doctor, and B, you weren't mercenary enough to charge her a premium in the process. So how do you reconcile that with being a charity that needs to make money? You have basically said, and this is the whole problem with UPMC, when you want them to be charitable, they say we have to run like a business, and when you want to tax them or treat them as a business, they say you can't do that, we're a charity.
That's true.
And that to me is whether that, I don't know how this court case is going to go. And there's always the chance, too, you got to remember, a case like this could easily be dragged upon for many, many years.
Oh, it will.
In the interim period of which it would be quite possible for UPMC to get a change to the state constitution.
They are attempting to do so. They are trying to make change the bar. They're trying to lower the bar. The legislature will lower the bar, and then we won't be able to. I find I find them reprehensible, and for the people on the other side who suggest that because they had that being for this lawsuit is demeaning and disparaging the doctors and
the Freddie Fu argument. Did you see that letter?
Yeah, I did. I mean,
stop bashing our excellence.
I mean, come on. It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with it. Nothing.
Yeah. I just thought that his letter said, "Please stop bashing our excellence." It's just like, look, Dr. Fu, in case you're listening, nobody's bashing your excellence. We're bashing the assholes that you work for. That's what this is about. Nobody is bashing you. Nobody questions your ability to reconstruct Steelers linemen's knees and whatever else it is you do.
Actually, he did this shoulder.
Did he really?
Yeah, Freddie Fu.
And he did a bang-up job. From what I could tell, you got a full range of motion there.
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, or this emotional kind of, and they've saved my daughter, and they saved my... Yeah, they helped my kid a number of times, too. So?
That's the other thing about... That's the other thing about this Kendra Bowser and these Community Blue patients. If I was UPMC, I would not only take them as patients, I would put her in advertisements. Even the people who are working for this rival health system still value our physicians.
That's right.
That's not bashing your physicians. That's praising them. And people went out of their way to do that. Even at this press conference, even at the very moment when Luke Ravenstahl had you in his target, in his crosshairs, everybody was talking about the quality of care.
Yeah.
So nobody is bashing anybody's excellence. It's a complete, as you say, it's just completely dishonest to
total
make
red
that
herring.
the
Has
argument.
nothing to do, and will have no standing in the court. I mean, it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, so it's just that, and I think fundamentally, I mean, the Post-Gazette, I think, had an editorial today that was somewhat downbeat, I think, about the prospects for this lawsuit. But even the Post-Gazette said, look, I mean, it's just, it just can't go on this way. So, I mean, we have to define. Mm-hmm. We have to figure out what this thing is. This giant thing that is not. You just can't call it a nonprofit in the same way that you call the Little Sisters of the Poor.
No,
a charity. I mean, it's just something has to be done about that.
Well, as I said, this is a charity Ayn Rand would support.
Yeah, right.
They're rapacious. They are. I mean, all you have to do is ask them to explain why they put that hospital in Monroeville, 2 blocks away from a perfectly good hospital, or why they tore down the hospital in Braddock.
Another question which was raised to me as I was as somebody who was kind of working over the over UPMC's financial statements with me. UPMC breaks out different areas of operation separately. And one of the categories that it breaks out is it does have some for-profit subsidiaries, and it does have these overseas operations. UPMC Kazakhstan, I think, is actually one. It sort of blows my mind.
God's sake.
That sector of UPMC's business loses money. So why? I mean, if anybody's receiving the benefit of largesse, it's UPMC Kazakhstan. You know what I mean? Like this is not a profit maker. So I think it's a fair question. It's not a lot of money. It's a few $1 million, which in the infinite scheme of a $10 billion operation isn't that much money. But I think it does sort of suggest, again, here's money that's going to prop up this other stuff outside the region, outside the country.
It is true that UPMC is the largest, richest supposed nonprofit in health care?
I think there was, you may be referring, there was a Time magazine story a couple weeks ago that basically had a chart that showed CEO compensation and overall hospital size.
The one that
UPMC,
Steve Brill wrote.
Yes,
right.
UPMC was on the top of that heap.
They were absolutely on the top. There's no one even close. All over the
twice.
country.
I think twice as big as the next highest, as the number 2 finisher, who was, I can't even remember.
And believe me, the number 2, 3, and 4 finishers are sometimes considered even better in quality than UPMC. Let's not get so carried away that we think this is the greatest medical institution ever in the history of mankind, because it ain't.
Yeah. Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic, both highly reputable organizations, well down that list.
Exactly. And Romoff is the highest paid executive atop one of these.
Yes, I think that's true. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And I got news for you. It's I think it's hard to suggest that he's worth it, and that there's some reason that UPMC has to be twice as rich as the next. And what's amazing is we're not expected to win this.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think it's a tough slog. I think this is a very organization with a lot of resources.
So much money.
Yeah, they've got a lot of resources to fight this out.
And one of the reasons they have so much money is they don't have to pay their taxes. So they've got that money that would otherwise have gone to our benefit as a community. They are now going to use to fight us, to continue to rip us off, to have us support them.
And the best part about this is no matter what they do, it's always supposed to be like they're doing us a favor.
Always.
Even when they tell these community blue patients, you can't see our doctors. Their explanation for it is, we think it would be legally, medically, and ethically wrong to provide you care that you could get more cheaply somewhere else. It's like, really? Because I know of a lot of people who are paying out of network rates to see your doctors. So if that's unethical, why are the only people you're treating ethically the people who work for your biggest competitor? Like, why? I mean, like, that's chivalry indeed. You know what I mean? Like, I just think the whole thing is just completely bizarre. And I think that's a big part of what aggravates people, is when you accuse them of self-interest, the thing that makes people distrust them is because they're always pretending that they're doing you a favor. That's always what they say.
Well, and what that is it's a patronizing, condescending, truly offensive to the ear of anyone with 3 brain cells operating. What are we, idiots?
Right.
What are we, children? We don't see what's going on here. We don't know, first of all, how big a footprint you've got, how much, that you... I mean, there's no doubt part of you're the economic engine in large part that has helped Pittsburgh turn around. Are we supposed to, obsequiously kiss your big butt for the rest of our lives? Apparently, yes. I'm sorry.
I don't think they'd object if that's what we were to do.
Mr. Romoff. Oh God, what an evil guy he is. He's like Mr. He's like Mr. Burns. Isn't he? He is. He's just
same
like
hairline.
Mr. Burns. He really is. What a vile little creep.
Mankind has always longed to block out the sun.
Yes. God. All right.
We'll see how it plays out. What the other thing too that's just sort of interesting, the politics of it. When at Luke Ravenstahl's event, there were numerous politicians there, as you might expect, including Jim Byrne, who's the chair of the state Democratic Party. You kind of have to look around, and nobody of the mayoral candidates, not all of them are full square behind this. Jack Wagner and Jake Wheatley both expressed these sort of, I'd have to have my lawyers, blah blah blah, and I'm not sure, and so on and so forth. But nobody stood up for UPMC, right? I mean, nobody's making that case. So if I'm UPMC, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, well, who are my allies here? Is it Republicans? Is that all I've got? Because these same Republicans are the ones who have, at least so far, been fighting against the expansion of Medicaid in the state of Pennsylvania, which is something that hospitals across the state desperately want and need, because it helps improve their bottom line. So you want to talk about the strange bedfellows that hospital may have to be making in the future here. It's impressive. It is really.
Well, I was thinking we need to raise money so we can fight them.
Oh,
Kickstarter.
Yeah. Kickstarter for the.
Don't you think people would give to that?
Strasburger Gutnick law firm.
Yeah, don't you think they would?
Yeah, probably.
To help the poor city of Pittsburgh battle this Goliath?
Yeah, probably.
Huh?
Yeah, that would be funny. The best part, too, is I guess, to some extent, if the city's paying for this out of its pocket, it's coming from operating funds, including those contributed under voluntary payment of lieu of taxes by other nonprofits. So,
oh, dear God. Well, it'll be interesting to watch, I guess.
Yeah.
And probably discouraging.
Yeah, but you know what? As simply as a reporter, I'm looking forward to the ensuing legal filings, the discovery process.
It'll be
I think people will really stand to learn something. And again, that's as much as anything else. That's why I think this lawsuit just has to happen. There just has to sort of be an airing of this.
Stop and think. We sort of know how evil and awful these guys are, and we're going to have a lot more.
Stuff will come out.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah, really. And that says nothing about the quality of their many fine employees.
Right. Nobody bashed Freddie Fu. He seems like he's feeling really vulnerable right now.
Freddie.
Sokolowski tomorrow?
I believe so.
Okay.
And that's usually the way it is. And then nothing on Friday because I've been Christianized out of a show. Jews used to go hide on Good Friday anyway, so I said I should just, I'll hide under the bed, and then next week we'll have a regular. We do come the day after Easter, don't we?
Yeah, sure.
Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do then we'll just get regular again. Thank you so much, Mr. Chris Potter.
Always good to be here.
His paper's out today. Pick one up. You don't even have to pay for them.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.